Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the second entry of the Among the Clefs Podcast 2025, organized by the Western Music Society of Royal College. I'm Channel Tamisha, and today with us we have a memorable persona in the musical field of college. This individual played a pivotal role in the establishment of the Western Orchestra of Royal College. He is, of course, a past member of the symphony orchestra of our nation with more than 55 years of experience. And, of course, 20 years of experience as a conductor. He lent out a helping hand as a conductor for the National Youth Orchestra and overall helped out as a trainer there as well. Sir, it's truly an honor to have you here with us, sir. And this, of course, is none other than Mr. Ajith Abeysekara. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, we'll dive straight in to today's podcast session. So, sir, how does it feel to be one of the most notable individuals within our school's musical past, as we already know?
Maybe you're pitching it too high. There are many notable musical individuals in our school. But what I'd like to say is that there was no organized Western music society in the school at the time I joined, because in 1961, in I was first form, there was a choir which met regularly, and the choir was actually conducted by the then principal of the school, Mr. Dudley K.J. De Silva. And we, I can remember that we recorded the school song, and that was then used at the assembly for maybe 10 or 15 years. And we trained very seriously, with vocal exercises before the choir session started and all that. So, uh, so there was a lot of musical activity in the school at that time, but Western music was not organized in that sense. There was no orchestra, but the students got together and formed band, and there was in fact a school band. We played more or less at a professional level, uh, and but it was Royal College at that time was not the huge school it is now, a smaller school, and the students had a lot of freedom to do a lot of things that they would like to do. So that way it encouraged a lot of creativity. In contrast, the Oriental Music Society were very well organized at that time. They had competent Oriental music teacher, and they had, in fact, there was a separate room, the Oriental Music Society room in the school, and we practiced and credit. So, so that's my sort of memories of school at that time. Uh, I was came from a home background with a lot of classical music. Uh, my mother was a very well known pianist, and we had music in our home uh, as far as I can remember. And there was always these top level singers, instrumentalists dropping home to rehearse and things like that. Uh,
Nice.
so it was quite natural for me getting a same music, and I started playing the clarinet when I was 14, maybe briefly whatever age. And that in fact got me involved in the Oriental Music Society, because the Oriental music teacher, Mr. Paliathanaka, the famous Mr. Paliathanaka, uh, found that I played the clarinet. I said, look, you better come and play in the Oriental Music Orchestra. So I think the first orchestra that I played the clarinet in the orchestra was Oriental Music Society. There was no Western Music Orchestra at that time. Just a bit ironic, but my main interest was, of course, the Eastern classical music. And then I followed that pathway. And once I entered university, when I first in the university, I joined the Symphony Orchestra of Sri Lanka. I was clarinetist. I was there ever since the beginning of this year.
Like, sir, where do you, in your memory, where did music become a major part of your life? Was it like always there? No.
I would say for me, it has been a part of my life. And it was not something you did by the way. I mean, music was the integral part of the life, because it was the integral part of our home. And something of value beyond examinations, and things like that. So, and mind you, I'm also not really talking about classical music. Like, of course, there are many types of music, and people can enjoy music in so many different ways. But if you're a serious musician, then it becomes something a little bit like a religion. You know? I mean, I would practice the clarinet every day. When I was doing postgraduate work in Belfast, after working in the lab, I had arranged get a room at 10 o'clock in the night and I would practice till 12 o'clock before I went to sleep. So without that kind of involvement, I think you can't become a serious when you perform music, but music can be appreciated and enjoyed at so many different levels. Everybody doesn't be that. So I'm really happy that now there is a Western music society and a very active one with young guys like you know, taking the lead willingly, so that it will provide the royalists of today much more opportunity, you know, for getting involved in Western music than we had when we were in school. I think because it was, if you came from a family background which had Western music in it, you went into it. You, if not, you didn't. But now you're actually opening it up by your activities. You're not bringing it to the attention of the whole school. So you're. I think it's a very nice thing to see. And even regarding the whole of this, was that there was a music teacher who was very keen on starting this at the time. My son is an artist and he was a very good violinist. And during that time, he started this orchestra. And I mean, naturally, I got involved in, you know, training it. And I brought in a lot of my colleagues from the symphony orchestra into them. And we practiced every day at the Royal Primary, not every day, but every week, once a week. And it's our first concert at the college board, or somewhere around 2000, I can't remember. And it was a really nice concert. Uh, I think the momentum kind of, you know, sad the bit after that. But I think it was revived again now with Miss Priyanti's action, and now it's really going full steam ahead. Even in that revival, I was involved in it, and I conducted movies and whatnot. Also. So,
Sir, I believe you mentioned the clarinet being the instrument you focus on most on. What exactly out all the instruments? What drove you towards resonating with the clarinet?
oh, that's an interesting question. Well, my interest in the clarinet started off with my interest in jazz. Uh, I used to listen to the daily Voice of America jazz broadcast by Willis Conover, and I was really fascinated by people like Benny Goodman, you know, and uh, so I started the kind of that, but soon after I heard on records and on radio some of the great clarinet masterworks from the Western classical music. What I looked after that quintet, that quintet, Mozart, quintet. And I thought how wonderful it must be to be able to play these things, you know. So that's how I got kind of hooked on it. It started off with interest in jazz, but by listening the classical clarinet, the sound is totally, you know, different to the jazz sound. Jazz sound is very nice, but it serves a different purpose. Uh, so uh, so that really, and it's a it's an instrument which it plays a very important role in the symphony in a symphony orchestra, particularly after the Romantic period. You know, composers wrote a lot for the clarinet, and so there's a lot of playing to do. There's a lot of chamber music, and you know, playing an instrument like that is something message that I want to give to young audience today. That if you're really serious about the instrument, you will get involved in it, thing because be able to play an instrument at a particular level really becomes a very important part of your personality and helps you to make friends and meet wherever you go in the world. You will always find some people with whom you can make music, and there's no better way of communicating with human beings than through music. It's much more powerful than words, actually. You know. You get two guys sit together and playing playing something. They're communicating with each other at level at a very basic level, much more significant than by talking.
That really is true about how music is more than just a forms of expressing oneself. I think, yeah, I think what you said about how we can more than often not just go out there and make music with another is truly something
Yeah.
that's great.
Yes, as I noticed that you all are choir members. Now, you see, the experience of singing in a choir is fantastic, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, it's not the same thing as you singing alone. You know, you're in the group and you're making the thing and you're trying to blend and, it's a wonderful experience. It's actually, to me, it's kind of a religion. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's actually a religion substitute. This feeling of community, which you can get in no other way. You see, you take sports in another activity that we are all involved in. There's an element of competition in that.
Yeah.
Which you don't get in here. No, you're working together for the common target. And come on, let's be.
That is, so I want you were a part of the group while back in your days at school. So,
Well, I sang in the Royal College choir, but I'm not much of a singer. So once our principal left, uh, I think the school choir kind of died down, and then I think it came up again later. But then I was out of school. But I sung in amateur choirs, postgraduate work, and that was nice. But it was mainly through my instrumental uh, ability that I was able to make with Mia. But so that's yeah. I mean, that's something that's given to almost every person with a voice. And choirs again are at different level. You can sing in very choirs which doing high level classical music, but just singing together and singing in a church choir, for example.
that is true. So, yeah. So, being in a choir truly is quite a vibrant experience.
Yeah, and you need discipline also. One of the things that is I I mean, just to tell you a story from school. Those days, these cadets used to march up and down in the school, and the college cadet master at that time, Mr. Ernest was also uh, a science teacher. And once a month, the talk came to discipline. And I told him, sir, what is the point in you shouting at these fellows, trying to discipline them? Why don't you get them to learn instruments? They will learn self-discipline then. But mind you, that was the kind of relationship we had with teachers also. That we were able to, talk with them like that. I remember, the story from the school day, but related to music. I told you I was involved with the Oriental Music Society. And one year it was my job to actually get the orchestra ready for the annual prize giving. Okay. So I had to get them to practice. And I still remember going to the principal, Mr. Bogor Premarat, then at that time, and saying, sir, can't you excuse these people in the Oriental Music Society from physical training? There was a period called PT. I don't know if you have it now. We had to all go to the ground and do exercises and things like that. And I still remember what he said. He said, Abeysekara, we must realize that physical training and aesthetics are two different things. So he refused to release them, and I had to practice them after school. So,
I don't. It's very interesting to hear these old time student to teacher stories. I really don't think we have these same experiences with our teachers to some extent.
no, one thing is that the school has now become, in my mind, so large that you have lost the intimacy, you know, uh, of student. The students, at the time I joined college, the whole school would assemble in the college hall, the college, Crescent College hall. That's the number of students we had. So, and then we, yeah, then with class teachers also. There was a enormous amount of give and take, and students were given a lot of responsibility and meant to uh, you know that's where I don't know what the school is now, but our college was a wonderful place at that time for people to students to develop their personalities. I remember a time when at A level there was no we had no teachers for a lot of subjects, and the students used to be wandering around. And then I came the vice principal at that time, Mr. E.C. Gunasekara, said, "Look, I can't have you all just walking around. I want you to make a timetable for yourselves. This time I'm going to be in the library. This time I'm going to the canteen. This time, and if I find you on the corridor, I'm going to ask you, where are you supposed to be now according to your timetable?" And then you were not supposed to walk, you have to corridor that any time. So that way he put the burden of regulating your time in school on the student. And that way, you know, it's quite an amazing thing. I do not know whether other schools have this or, but only when I look back now, I realize how much college have been a positive influence, in us developing independence of thought, independence of action. Uh, um, we have wonderful teachers, who encourage that.
Yeah, that truly is wonderful to hear about your past experiences. So, well, if we just dive straight back into about your experiences with the symphony orchestra, let's say, what do you think really stood out during those periods that you were a part of the symphony orchestras?
The symphony orchestra has been one of the most rewarding, wonderful experience in my life. I mean, I've been there for 50 years, so more now. And the, I mean, we developed so many very close friendships and relationships with people at that time. And then the ability to get able to experience these great masterworks, music from inside an orchestra is quite different to listening to it outside.
Yeah.
Because if you look at, say, a Brahms symphony or something, there are so many things happening. Now, when you listen as a listener, you hear the total effect, what the conductor is trying to impress on. But when you're inside that orchestra, you're actually a part of that. And you're actually trying to make that whole sound by playing your role and getting, and you're listening to what everybody else is doing in order to be able to get the music to speak. So you really get to know these great masterworks, and I call them masterworks because they're really masterworks of our civilization. The works of Mozart, Haydn, Beethoven, those will have a lasting value, in terms of what it tells us about ourselves, about our whole relationship with the universe, everything. You get immersed in it. So that way, the orchestra, playing in an orchestra gives you a uh, I think experience which you can't get probably in any other way. If you're a pianist, then you're playing your thing, and you're still learning masterwork and you're playing. But then this is making music with other, other people. And then, of course, then you get this conductor, working with the conductors, you learn their interpretations of their. So while we had superb local conductors, uh, I think the person who really conducted the orchestra 40 years, Professor Early from Chicago, Professor of Public Health at the Colombo Medical Consultancy, he, uh, he was a wonderful musician. And but during that time, also because of his excellence, we also got visiting, very good visiting conductors. So our experience enlarged during that time. So yeah, playing in an orchestra, uh, at whatever level, either at the professional or the amateur level, is, I think, a very worthwhile experience. And is that, I think, that is that which really drives you to do something like, when Royal College says, we want to start an orchestra. I think, oh, that's a great idea. I'll come and do what I can, because that's such wonderful memories of Royal, and I'm really grateful for what Royal has given me. Science. I'd like to do something better for the kind. So same thing with the interview when you said for the interview, I said, okay. So, yes. So according to our sir, you are member of an orchestra. What's a general piece of advice that you can give to our listeners if they are a part of an orchestra? What's something for them to always keep in their mind? Okay. Okay. One thing is that you have a responsibility to all the other members of the orchestra. So you have to be able to play your part as well as you can. That's the so you have to practice and you have to listen to the music. Try to understand how your role fits into the whole thing, right? And then do your best to do that. It's not just going there, putting that music sheet in front of you and playing those notes and coming off. That's not being a member of an orchestra. So one, I think most important thing that you have to take your role very serious and you have to practice hard and be sure that you can give the conductor what the conductor wants. Conductor says, I want this passage loud, you give or whatever is like that. So, a little blend, try to blend weather with the woodwinds, okay, right, right. So there are different ways of interpreting music. But in order to be able to do that, you should try as much as possible to master your instrument. Now, mastering an instrument is a lifelong thing. I I I I remember I'm the wonderful sitar player Ravi Shankar. The word he was fantastic guitarist from India. He was great. At age of 65, he said, I'm still practicing, learning to play the flute to cope with friends. So that's a kind of, I think you need a certain amount of humility to realize that, yes, you are important in this, but your importance doesn't take it not more than the importance of the whole work of music and what everybody else is doing. So it is a little difference to the pop culture. Now, the pop culture, you get the superstars. Yeah. They are on stage and the focus is on them. Even if people are not even thinking about the compose of the song, they're thinking about the perform. Yeah. Now, when orchestra plays, okay, the conductor is a bit of a star because he is the guy who is there. And orchestra does convey something about the name. So, uh, uh, most important thing is the work of music, the work of art. It's a work of art that you're trying to bring to life. So there's a difference in the way. I'm not saying one is better or greater or anything, but it's important to recognize the difference. But if you're playing, if you're a pop musician and you're a soloist, then your role is quite different. Now, the the roles are blended slightly if you're a soloist playing a concerto with an orchestra. Or when you're a soloist playing, like you're playing a Mozart piano concerto or piano concerto, then the soloist stands out also. Yeah. But still, even with the solo, the important thing is the work. Bringing out the beauty of the work, right? And then you say, oh, I really enjoyed that. But then, yes, you're talking about Mozart as well as the performance. But you will never find that people saying, oh, so will you stand? Who was the composer? Nobody knows. Yeah, that you know what I mean? I don't think we really like. I never noticed it after you mentioned it, Yasin. But I don't think we really pay close attention to who wrote the words of a song, who accomplished the music. Like nowadays, in pop culture. Definitely, the pop culture, of course, in pop music, also a lot of performers compose their own music versions. There's also a difference in the two cultures. And I think that they both are important and they have a role to play in society, both in the government of music. My involvement has been in the classical music field. Uh, I've done a little bit of jazz work with some good players like Prof. But I think I'm really not a good jazz player. But I'm a good jazz listener, and I can appreciate what it is doing.
Okay. What can you say about your experience in jazz then? So,
It's to me, jazz is a place where you're making very fine music, but you have a lot of freedom. You're not stuck to the note. You also compose at the same time. But of course, you can't just do what you like. You're working within a particular framework. So there are the different styles of jazz. If you're playing traditional jazz, it's different to playing modern jazz and you do thing. But within those framework, you're given much more freedom to choose your own notes and do things than in performing in a classical music. Like in classical music, you have to play the notes the composer wrote. Right. But within that, of course, there's, okay, this is a happy piece of music. How happy? Is it the same happiness you get when you see a seashore, or is it the happiness when they're different emotions? So you still have that flexible, but it at a finer levels. There are very fine jazz musicians. Very few musicians have done both to the same level. There are, like, for example, Andre Previn, or the conductor of the London symphony. It was a superb jazz pianist. Right? So there are a few individuals who have excelled in both, but they're very rare. I think the rare kind of personality. For example, now you take top jazz pianists like Oscar Peterson. I mean, he has a technique that can play anything. But he said, playing Chopin was not for him. He wanted to do his own thing. But I mean, he is the most amazing, and he could probably play any concerto that he asked to play. But that's not him. He wants to do something else. So there are, and I think the more you can appreciate the different styles, the different things that people do, your experience is enriched. And that's another thing. I don't think, particularly in today's world, when things are so available. So because of my contact with the oriental music orchestra, I got really into a different field. I mean, I virtually know almost everything that has been sung by Pandit Samradeva. Um, and when I went to Prof to give my postgraduate work, the only music I took with me was the recording of Samradeva songs. But it meant so much to me. Right? So it's all good. So so I think that that's another piece of advice that we must give to the young people to try to expand your experience, not to get bogged down in something and say this is it. There is one thing, this is particularly it for you, but your mind should be open to yes. Yeah. And one other thing which I would like to say, particularly with regard to music, is that it does not have to be at the detriment of your academic career. There are so many examples of people. You know, so doing music does not mean that you have to sacrifice for studying for people who equally will need. I mean, I myself, I ended up a professor on the university chemistry while doing music all the time. I played in concerts even when I was doing my exams. So I think it's something probably more than sports, because in sports your time is taken up by the engagements of the matches and things. But I think music is something from top to do, you know, find the time, your own time while doing your academic work. And I mean, academic work is important in order to get where you want in life.
I think it's extremely important for everyone to learn how to balance their academics.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. And then music provides the emotional balance. And then I think sports gives you the balance of physical activity and roughing it out with the ball. And so I think all those are important experiences.
Yeah, that's true. So one more big question, sir. You mentioned, so we all know that you played a extremely important role in overall establishing our school's orchestra. So, sir, in that case, in your opinion, what were some major issues that you faced in establishing the orchestra?
Well, I think the most important thing in any one of those things is the support you get from the school system, right? So now you take a school, you first of all need a music teacher who will fully committed. But even if the music teacher is fully committed, you cannot then do anything unless you get the support of the principal, the deputy principal. There's you need space for you need space for yourself. Your students have to be exposed for sometimes certain activities, and uh, and as you know, in anything, any place you get sometimes organizational problems. So there have been times which I don't know to where even the Royal College Orchestra, the Western Orchestra, faced some difficulties. Mainly due to I think interpersonal relationships at the higher level. But as so myself personally, never had any problem. I mean, myself from the school, we had no problems. I realized that that there were organizations, but that is so in any organization. I mean, I don't think it's specific for a lot of for a school or anything. What is important is that the people who are doing this are committed, motivated, and think about where they're trying to go rather than getting sidetracked into petty little you know issues. In anything you do, that's what it has to be. Even it's so easy to get sidetracked and start to quarrel with somebody. You know what you want to do.
That's very important advice to anyone that's serious special interest. Yeah, I get you. So, one last question before we wrap up for the session. In your opinion, sir, what's a good piece of advice for anyone who's like wanted to chase their musical dream with their musical career?
Oh, it's a very difficult. When you say musical career, it depends first of all whether you're talking about being a professional or being a very good, but a player who is involved in musical activity. You can be involved in music making at a very high level without being a professional musician, but you're playing at professional standards. Now, that is what the symphony orchestra is trying to do all the time, and I think we have been moving up over the years. Uh, but if you're going to be a music professional, all I can say is that is one of the toughest professions in the world, right? In either in pop music or in classical music. It's extremely tough. It's very competitive. There's so much of talent out there. So unless you really feel that there's nothing else you want to do in life, I wouldn't advise people to try to become professional musicians. But I would advise them to try to go on improving in their music, and it chance might work. Now, I can remember that time I was learning that very important thing. Uh, I was also learning the violin a little bit. And there was a wonderful teacher, very evaluating person, who was music teacher. So she was a professional because she played in the symphony orchestra as a not as a professional as one of the orchestra members, but a professional because she earned a living by teaching music. And I remember one thing she told me. She said, "I will just remember one thing of this issue. We are talking. Remember talking about Sri Lanka. It not doesn't apply to maybe another country. Said if you want to enjoy your music, make sure you don't have to depend on it for a living." No, that was Sri Lanka at that time. Sri Lanka today is a little different, particularly in the entertainment industry. There are people doing very well, very well. But still, I think in classical music, there's nobody making a living by music other than by teaching. There are top level musicians, top level performers. Income comes from teaching students and not by performing. The performing is still done because of the joy and satisfaction it gives us. So this varies from country to country. Now, some other countries will have, maybe great opportunities. And certainly, Sri Lanka today different from Sri Lanka, but big work. Even the entertainment industry was not like what it is today. The entertainment industry can be very lucrative for people who are good at making their money. So it's difficult. It will all depend on the person also. There are some people who say, no, there's nothing else I want to be, but you know, then you try to help them as much as you can. But all I can say it's extremely competitive. One of the most competitive professions to do.
Okay, that is a very valid opinion, sir. So, along with that, I think the most important key takeaway that we can take today is always know when to balance everything and always know that.
Well, you will know what your talents are, capabilities are, and what the opportunities are. We can change from time to time, from place to place, and then optimize them. You get the most satisfactory solution which is correct for you. I mean, that's the advice I will give my students. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
And with those words, I'd like to thank you so much for taking your time off to come and help us with our small project and to really, really say that we greatly appreciate and honor these swings that we had to express ourselves and for our viewers to listen to your words. So,
Thank you.
again, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Enjoy talking to you.
Thank
And good luck with your music and with your academic careers.
you. Pleasures. Thank you so much. And of course, thanks to our listeners taking your time off to listen to these wonderful words coming from this amazing esteemed individual. With that, thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you at our next episode. I'm Channel Tamisha. See you next time.